COVID situation, and of course, tough times don't last. So let's hang on. Yes, this is Jared from the digital sales team from Saxo Capital Markets, and today we are very privileged to have Ai Ling here as well from Lion Global Investors. I think for the benefit of some of us who are unaware of Lion Global Investors, they are actually an asset management firm and 35 years into the business. They are part of the Great Eastern Holdings, one of the oldest and most established life insurance group in Singapore and Malaysia. And they are also a member of the OCBC Group, the second largest financial services group in Southeast Asia. Once again, really thank you for joining us. We are very happy to talk about Metaverse tonight. And yep, let's get started. A little disclaimer, this presentation is brought to you by Saxo Capital Markets together with Lion Global Investors. And it's really for your general knowledge and information. And of course, some of this, in this session, some of our topics can be of our personal opinions. And of course, this does not constitute to any financial or investment advice. So again, for any investments, please do your own due diligence, do your research, and invest safely. The agenda for today, from 7 to 7:10, will take about 5 to 10 minutes for the benefit of a new client in Saxo or people who are keen to open a Saxo account. We will do a Saxo Trader Go, our award-winning platform, do a quick walkthrough on how you can perform a trade, as well as some of our platform features. From 7:10 onwards to 7:40, we have this interview session with Ai Ling, and in fact, she's the portfolio manager for Lion Global Investors Global Disruptive Innovation Fund. So I think with her she has more than 16 years of industry experience, very qualified, and I would say definitely will be able to bring us some value today. So I think as we know that this, as the name suggests, Global Disruptive Innovation Fund, their company really focuses investing in companies with strong growth prospects, in which later on we will be able to hear it from her again. Lastly, it is a Q&A session. We dedicate much more time, about 20 minutes in this session, to answer your questions on anything about Metaverse at all. So we try to make this a little bit more interactive. If you do have questions coming along at any point in time when we are discussing the topics, feel free to drop them in the chat function. If you are using your desktop, it will be at the bottom right of your screen. And if you are using your mobile phone, it will be at the top right of your screen. Again, select under the drop down. Under the drop down, please select all panelists so that we are able to see them and answer them along the way. If it gets missed out, or we will bring it on to the Q&A session at 7:40 to 8 p.m. With that, let's start off with our platform walkthrough. So for Saxo, we do have two different platforms for you to use, Saxo Investor as well as Saxo Trader Go. Saxo Investor would be a more simplified version of our platform where you trade cash products from funds to stocks to ETFs and bonds. And if you are looking at trading leverage products or even looking at more features, please feel free to use our Saxo Trader Go login. Saxo Trader Go with the same login credentials, you can access both platforms interchangeably. Let's start off with so you can either click via our website to enter the Saxo Trader Go, or you can go to the URL and type in saxotrader.com, and it will bring you to this landing page. Over here you can see we do have live and demo account within the same page. So for the purpose of today's session, let's use a demo account. When you log in, I think the most obvious one is this main header bar over here, which you can see consists of trading, research, and account. Okay, let's run through the trading page first. Over here on the right side, there is this global search bar where you can really search anything under the world as long as it's an instrument. You can type in the name of the company, for example, Meta, or you can type in the ticker symbol FB. It will appear as well. So over here you can see it's denoted by different square boxes. For example, you have CFD denoted, equities denoted, and we do trade in a wide range of asset classes. And in fact, we do for ETFs and stocks, we are traded in over 60 exchanges worldwide. And so in terms of asset classes, I would say it's especially important to in today's volatile market environment, where it really offers you the flexibility to diversify and protect your portfolio. So let's move on to the main page. Over here, we do have 3 full windows for you to navigate on. First one is mainly for the watch list, where it allows you to input a set of securities that you can monitor for potential investments. So in your own watch list, of course, you may lump different asset classes together. So let's go through how you can create a watch list simply by clicking onto New. You can click, type in the name that you wish to create. In this case, let's use Metaverse Webinar. So once it's created, you can see it's empty page. So you can feel free to input whichever instruments that you like in any asset classes. You can lump them together. For example, we can do Microsoft. Yeah, so for this we'll use CFD, and then perhaps something that is similar to something that's related to today's topic. So example, these are the 3 that I want to keep in my watch list to monitor their performance before I make any investment decisions. So this is when you already have the companies, the stocks in mind for your investments. But if you do not to worry, use this screener function. You can explore the different instruments we have over here, and you can filter out. It's really a tool that helps you sift through and find instruments that meet the requirements that you set. So for instance, I can search for a stock or ETFs or bonds, any of this, and then I can select the country, the exchanges, the industries, the market cap, etc. So once I have selected my criteria, it will only show those that have met my criteria, and you can select your winning stock from there. Okay, so this is what this page is about. Of course, if you click onto each instrument on the right side, it will the corresponding instrument will appear onto this window. Over here, you can see, of course, the latest price, the bid and ask as the prices, the overview of this particular stock, where it talks about what this company is. Okay, formerly Facebook. Of course, a simple line chart that you have, which is set in different periods. Okay, for example, all time. If you click onto news, you can see all the news related. Analysis by fact set. Okay, buy, hold, or sell. The key fundamental data and key financial data over here. A simple glance. Of course, together with the market depth. So if you feel that this line chart might not be enough for you, definitely you can set up a more in-depth chart just by clicking onto this charts icon. Okay, over here, if it's too small, you can expand the screen. So this is, for example, the candlestick chart. So again, you can select which chart type you would like. So once you are done with your chart type, you can select the indicators that you wish to include. So for example, let's add in some Bollinger Bands. Let's add in some perhaps MACD. Perhaps some RSI. Yep, so this is how you can view. Of course, you may want to compare a few charts at once. You can add or remove chart. So for Saxo Trader Go, up to 4 charts for your comparisons. Yep, this is for charts. And then lastly, how do you place a trade from here? Just do a right click and do a new trade. There are a variety of ways you can do this. You can double click it, or you can click on this blue button to place a trade. Over here, simple. You just select the type which you want, a market or limit. In this case, limit, because the market is not open. The amount that you wish to buy, the pricing that you set, okay, day order or good till cancel. You can click on these trading conditions to find out all the costs. And I would say Saxo, we are very proud to say that we are very transparent in our pricing. So everything is displayed to you beforehand before you place the order. Once confirmed, click on confirm. Immediately a notification is set up on the right side, and once that is done, it means that the order is confirmed. It goes under the order page. Okay, and once the market open and the price hits your limit price, it will get shifted. Once it will be executed and be in this positions page, where you're able to see a few more key details such as profit and loss. That's all for this trading header. We move on to the research. Research, I would say it's very essential if you are looking for bite-sized information. Okay, to really help you with your research and inspirations, our in-house experts have built a really comprehensive research hub. Over here, in the overview, you can see some trade signals by auto chartist. And Saxo wires our latest updates. We do have hot topics. For example, you can download our quarterly outlook publications and other interesting features that we have in the past. Perhaps I'll bring you to funds. So over here, every asset classes have its own page or own subsection. And our funds, we do not charge any commission, any custody fees, or any platform fees. So the only fee that you're looking at is within the management fee, which is inclusive in the prices of these funds. So one of our valued partners, Lion Global, you can click to find out more about them. And it happens that this Lion Global Disruptive Innovation Fund is one of their featured fund, and in fact, Ai Ling is the one that is heading this fund. Okay, move on to accounts. Over here, I would say you can monitor your trading portfolio and performance. We have tools to track and analyze your account profit and loss, and of course returns. You can generate a report any time of the day for your viewing experience. Yep. So this account because this is a demo account, it has more limited items. If you do, feel free to sign up with our live account to experience the full range, the full features of our platform. And if you are looking for a more detailed platform, feel free to go under our research hub, go under our webinars, where my brilliant colleagues have done a much better job at presenting the entire platform. So with this, we will end off this walkthrough, and I will officially pass this presenter's role to Ai Ling, and probably Ai Ling, you can do a self-introduction before we kick off the interview session.
Sure. Can you see me?
Yep, we can see you. Let me pass it to you right now.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll just wait to share content. Okay, perfect.
Yep, I've passed the role to you.
Let me share my slides. Right. So I'm Ong Ai Ling. I'm the fund manager of our Lion Global Disruptive Innovation Fund. So we've been, well, we launched the fund back in 2017, so we're almost near our 5-year mark now. These are our team members. I won't spend, and this is just a little bit about myself. So myself, I've been in the equity industry for over 16 years. I was in hedge funds actually for most of my career before Lion Global. And in a hedge fund, I think I picked up a lot of, shall we say, growth-oriented skill sets and a bit more technicals, which helps us when we're looking at a fund such as Lion Global Disruptive Innovation Fund. So today's topic is on Metaverse. So of course I'll focus on that. But before I get into the meat of the Metaverse, I just briefly like to share with you, with everyone, a little bit about why we came up with the whole GDIF first and why it's important, we think, for people to be investing in disruptive innovation. And I do mean by that, like the overall ecosystem of secular growth and long-term winners, not just the very tiny sliver that's called the Metaverse. And you'll see a little bit more when I explain about how we have been investing in the Metaverse over the last 5 years, in fact. So this is a bit of research done by Merrill Lynch. Basically, the two charts show, the one on the left here, it basically shows that since the 1990s to the mid-2020s, over 100% of all the net wealth created was actually only by the top 947 firms globally. So in other words, it's a winners take all approach when it comes to investing over the long term. A very small sliver of stock, and you can imagine in that 947 companies, most of them are your tech funds, your innovative, disruptive biotech, the real technology-driven kind of growth-oriented companies. A very small sliver of them actually contribute most of your wealth. And over here it shows that in the US at least, the concentration of wealth created by the top 0.5% of the top tier of companies has gone down over time. So in the 1926 to 1995 period, it was top 0.5%. And then by 2016 to 2019, the top quarter of wealth was created by only 0.16%. So increasingly, it's a winner's. If there's nothing else you take away from it, you need to invest in disruptive innovation themes because it's becoming a winner's take-all market, right? Similarly here, it talks about the different ways, the first wave being the Industrial Revolution, then you have the railways, you remember Buffett's story about the railways. Then you had the Ford, the automobile era, then the aviation era. We've seen the mobile phone era. I guess most of us would have lived through some of it at least. And now we're going into the sixth wave. And what's interesting is that each era is taking a shorter and shorter period of time to disrupt the rest of the ecosystem. Likewise, here on the top right-hand corner, it shows that these are the incumbents and their average lifespan in, let's say, if you were to invest in an index ETF like the S&P 500. I mean, I invest in the S&P 500 as well. It's safe, it's reliable, but what you find is that the companies that survive in these ETFs tend to get shorter and shorter over time. So a lot of them, they may get in, but then if you're not careful, you'll get kicked out quite quickly. But before we go into the Metaverse, I just wanted to talk a little bit about our disruptive themes. So we have a total of 16 different themes. I won't go through all of them, but you see here, this is the Metaverse. And what's interesting is that even before the Metaverse as a concept became that popular sometime late last year, we'd already been investing in augmented reality, virtual reality. We were investing in cybersecurity. We were investing in some blockchain enablers and cloud computing, all of which are actually the underlying infrastructure that makes it to being part of the Metaverse. We were also, of course, investing in esports, digital entertainment, and fintech, all of which, are beneficiaries of the Metaverse. So let's go into the Metaverse proper. Is that still showing the PowerPoint slide? Brilliant. So I guess the first question that most people have would be, well, especially I don't know what generation you're in, but if you're not in the millennials or the Gen Z generation, you probably be like, oh, Metaverse, what is that? It's basically a wrapper or umbrella term for the digitization of everything, everywhere, all the time. So if we think about the original Web 1.0, I don't know how many people remember, like me, the days of the bulletin board systems or your dial-up modem. You go AOL and go do connect, and it's really slow before you get the text come up, right? So I sound like a dinosaur when I'm talking about it. But back then, our notion of the internet was very static. Something shows up, it's a landing page, we read it, we click on the link, we move on to another page full of text. So Web 2.0, which is the era that our kids' generation is familiar with, is an interactivity where we read, we write, and we interact with the internet, right? So what I guess the pioneers and the creators, the guys in the forefront, like to think about Web 3.0, which is what they call the Metaverse, is a space where you can read, you can write, and you can live your life on the internet. So you can own property there, you can work there, your life is connected to your Internet of Things, so your Alexa, your Google. You wear AR, VR headsets, and you are always online. To people who may not be gamers and may not have experienced something like that, think of it like the movie The Matrix, right? So how I explain to my mom is, think of it like The Matrix, right? And she's like, oh, but I don't like the killer robots. No, in the Metaverse, there are no killer robots. And if you die playing a game, you do not really die. One quick video to give us the sense of it. Unfortunately, I think we're probably not able to hear it. But you can see, this is the equipment that creates the Metaverse. So the person's basically walking on a static treadmill. She's holding these controllers which give her sensory output, and they're wearing these AR, VR headsets that give them visual. So what they see in the Metaverse is something more like that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep, Ai Ling.
Yeah.
I think
So that's how these people play the games.
Yes, this is, I would say, really fully immersing themselves into this virtual world, and even their senses are all being intrigued. So really,
so it's a fully immersive experience.
Exactly. So in fact, Metaverse is such a big buzzword, which is part of our topic, our synopsis today. Such a big buzzword in this whole entire world of investing. Yeah. So of course, like you have mentioned, it has gained massive traction, especially since October last year.
Yes.
Of course, when Facebook
renamed itself,
renamed and rebranded themselves into Meta, right? And of course, they pledged to invest heavily into building Metaverse. So I think there are some sort of questions that some of our audiences might have. Is there a relationship between Facebook and Metaverse per se? Or also, when we try to really find the definition on Metaverse, which we have slightly touched on earlier, there really isn't, I would say, a straightforward or any a single definition that can clearly describe. But what we find perhaps from Google is some other big buzzwords like Web 3.0, like the one you mentioned, like VR, virtual reality, the one that you have shown, and of course a decentralized network. So apparently there are really quite a bit of interpretations on what Metaverse is all about. So coming from our audience's point of view, perhaps on my point of view as well, based on your understanding, your experience, your research about Metaverse, and of course how it coincides with the GD fund that you are heading, where do you think it actually came about, and perhaps a little bit more on what you think Metaverse is all about?
Okay, so I think just to address your questions, so first of all, on Facebook specifically, the reason why Facebook rebranded themselves Meta, I mean, I think there are a lot of conspiracy theories about other reasons why, but I'd say the most obvious reason why is because they invested in Oculus Rift back in, I think it was 2016 or 17, right? And for people who are not familiar, Oculus was one of the pioneering AR VR headset, and I actually have one of them here. I'll show you later. So at that point, they tried to take off, didn't really work, and now I think they're trying to point out to people that Facebook is more than just Facebook, the social media app that you're aware of. They also, as people know, they also own Instagram and they also own Oculus. And now they're trying to push into that space of this fully immersive web experience, right? And then, sorry, you had another question about, oh yes, you asked about decentralized. Okay, so I'm trying to disperse myths out there. So I think one of the common misconceptions, or not misconceptions, one of the common myth is that the metaverse means it's blockchains, right? You say decentralized because blockchains are, when you say decentralized, most people think of blockchains. And when most people think of blockchains, they think of NFTs and cryptos, and then you go to Bitcoin, and then suddenly it all becomes a bit of an explosion of names out there in Reddit.
Yeah, it gets really confusing, yes.
I'd like to say that we do not invest in cryptocurrencies, and we do not, we find it rather speculative kind of investment activity. The reason why people think it's related is because in the metaverse right now, it's a little bit of uncharted territory. There's so many different platforms trying to be the metaverse. They're trying to be the be-all and end-all that there is. And a lot of them are somehow linked to, are by default, using cryptocurrencies as their default currency for exchange. And a lot of them are also using NFTs to represent the ownership of the property, like buying land in the metaverse or buying a handbag in the metaverse. In reality, buying a graphical, digitized representation of something is nothing new at all. The only difference is that they put it on a blockchain and then suddenly there's a bit of a hype about it. So I think it's de facto, because some of these platforms like the fact that because it's decentralized, it's out of the reach of the government. So it's a bit of a wild west of the crypto internet space at the moment. So I'd just say I'd be a little bit wary when you're trying to invest in these asset classes within the metaverse concept, as opposed to, and I'm happy to share my chart about how we choose to invest in the metaverse. The infrastructure that is powering the metaverse. Because you think about it, why did Facebook's share price go down this last quarter? It went down partly because of their ads and their competition by ByteDance, but also one part is their capex went up. And why is their capex going up? Because they're spending a lot on trying to build the metaverse. So I like to think of the hype and the reality. The hype right now is that there is a bit of a gold rush mentality when it comes towards the metaverse. And the reality is that during a gold rush, I don't necessarily want to buy the gold miners. I want to be buying the spade and shovel sellers, the guys who are selling spade and shovels to the miners. Those are the guys who will be making the most money, and those are the guys whom I can safely, buy their stock and rest and sleep well at night. So I hope that gets into the investment point as well.
Thanks for that, Ai Ling. I think in this spiel, you managed to answer some of the questions that were originally intended to us. But let's move on from here. Now that we have sort of established a little bit about Metaverse, so also a lot of people are thinking, because it feels like Metaverse concepts are leaning towards gaming, a lot on VR, goggles, avatars as such. And in fact, a very recent movie, I would say we might be familiar of, Ready Player One.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So they really, it's in the future where the world is collapsing, and they would really want to escape reality by fully immersing themselves into these video games, into this virtual world to compete for prize. So that's what Ready Player One is. So really the question is, to what extent is it only for gamers? And where do we see ourselves?
I totally understand why you would ask that question. So the way I like to think about the metaverse, and I'm sure you've seen similar maps where people say, oh, this is in the metaverse, that's part of the metaverse. But to simplify things, I generally like to think of them in three categories. One is what we call the gateways, Then the second bit is the user interface, the content, and the digital ecosystem. Then finally the infrastructure. So the gamers bit is actually in this gateways part, and it's what you see a lot of gaming names here like Fortnite, Animal Crossing, Minecraft, Roblox. Second Life. These are not new names per se. So in some ways, that's why people have this view that it's all about gamers. But actually, in reality, the whole idea of the metaverse, a fully immersive experience, it's not just for gamers. If you think about how we work and live right now, a lot of us have digitized our lives. So a lot of what we do is in the internet. And what I mean by that is, even as we speak right now, we're leaving behind a digital footprint. Someone can listen to our conversation and convert it using natural language processing, which is a form of AI, and turn it into machine readable format where the machine can make sense of it, right? So, this explosion of data coming from humans leaving digital footprints been happening over the last 5-10 years. And the people who are the proponents of the metaverse believe that everything else can be digitized. So effectively, you can start owning land in the metaverse. You can get married in the metaverse. So one of my colleagues even went during COVID lockdown. He went on a virtual tour of Japan, and they sent him food, and he had like a proper conversation with the locals. So it's like everything's online these days. And another friend got married in the metaverse. So it's true that gamers are the early adopters of the metaverse. They're the ones who are willing to splash out on VR, AR headsets. And in some ways, if you've got kids that are teenagers, you'll find that they sometimes form in-game only relationships. So they have friends that they've never met apart from in the metaverse. As older people, I guess the older generation, we look at that and we think, well, you have to invest where the younger people are going these days. So you need to get with the times, and that's why we think there's a lot of investment opportunities building up to this
Yes, exactly.
Ultimate reality.
Yeah, I think that's a very clear explanation. And from what I get from you, it sort of is not just a place for games for sure in the future. Probably more of an immersive virtual environment where we not just play, but we could probably live and even work within the metaverse, or even using the metaverse for our work. So really, I would say in terms of possibilities, like you mentioned, they traveled to Japan using metaverse. So for instance, it creates also like sort of a creators economy where people can design places that have never been seen before. For example, how cool is it if you can travel to Mars with metaverse? How cool is it if you can travel back in time to the dinosaur era and select a dinosaur?
Say that, and actually a lot of people are using such technology to teach kids, right? That's a much better way of teaching children history, right? If you can teach them about prehistoric times, or even the Roman Empire, they can see Julius Caesar. So, the metaverse, you think it's just gaming, but actually it's experiential, right?
Exactly.
And that's when I get excited, because there are proper use cases for it.
Exactly. Thinking about that sort of gives me goosebumps. It's like there isn't any limitations at all already in the future. So again, I think that answers the question. Very quickly, let's move on to we're sort of like understand and establish what Metaverse is about. But there are these few other key buzzwords which earlier on in one of your slides you did mention a few, but let's run them through again, such as like blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, NFTs, digital real estate. Okay. Like decentralized network. Those so again, how would you say the correlation with this words, how it links to metaverse? That's the question.
Yeah, so I think the thing with blockchain, NFTs, crypto, as I mentioned earlier, they're sort of de facto. I think the reason why people talk about blockchain a lot is because some of the metaverse platforms, particularly guys like Sandbox, Decentraland, Somnium Space, they have really just come up in the last 6 to 12 months, and they're based off the blockchain network, specifically the Ethereum network. In Korea, for example, we have a bunch of computer games that are based off what they call Clayton, which is owned by Kakao Games. And that's like an equivalent, like a layer zero, right? So I don't know how familiar. I don't want to go into blockchain too much because it's about the metaverse, not blockchain. But there's like layer zero, layer one. So like Ethereum is layer zero, layer one, and then these are like the NFTs and the tokens that are built are like layer two that are built upon it. These games are built upon it. So people like to use them to builds it, and it's just more, I guess it's like a subculture within the people who like to hang out in the metaverse, that they like things to be decentralized. I think the other thing as well is the advantage of something that is decentralized and something that's built on a common ecosystem like Ethereum is that it can be taken from platform to platform or game to game. So say, for example, in the past, if you played Fortnite and you bought a gun or something, right? Or when you go to, I don't know, you go to Roblox or you go to GTA, you can't take that same gun across, right? Because it's tied to that one game's ecosystem. So now the idea is when you have blockchain, when you buy a gun in that blockchain or a Gucci handbag to show off in the blockchain, buying an NFT in the blockchain, so long as it's within the same network, let's say it's an Ethereum network or a Clayton network, you can bring it across to different games. And now we're seeing, like in Korea, a lot of the new games that are like, I guess, play to earn games that are also very metaverse friendly. They are trying to create sub games within that where people can live and work in the game. So, I mean, not that I think you should go do this, but there are a lot of computer games out there where they do play to earn games. And during COVID lockdown, there was a big buzz story because some Filipino coders and gamers actually made a living when they couldn't go outside to work because of COVID. They made a living actually mining or playing the game and earning tokens within the game, earning coins, earning assets which are valuable within the game, and exchanging that for real money, USD, which they could then use to feed their family. So that was one of the reasons why people tend to associate NFTs and cryptocurrencies with the metaverse, because you can live and work within the gaming ecosystem.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I fully agree with you. The potential uses of like NFTs in these cases is no longer just for each game. You can perhaps it's creating a brand new economy where people can cash out from their game, and yeah, it's I would say creating something that hasn't been seen in our real world, and that's where it's headed towards.
Yeah. I guess this gets a little bit philosophical. In some ways, you can kind of think of each gateway or each platform almost like its own country, right? So if you have a lot of users, it's like having a lot of citizens. And if these users, gamers / citizens, are willing to work and create things in that virtual economy, it's almost, how is it that dissimilar to someone who's willing to work and build a house in Singapore or the Philippines, right? Yeah. So it's, at the end of the day, I'm not proposing that anyone should buy a house or land in Decentraland or anything like that. But at the end of the day, you have to figure out, like, location, right? So, the equivalent in the metaverse is, well, which platform do you think will be the winner, right? Which platform do you think will genuinely have a real use case and attract a lot of citizens to their ecosystem?
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for that. And it feels like right now, it feels kind of like the concepts of like really actualizing this metaverse. It feels kind of dreamy. It's like futuristic. It feels a lot like a fiction, science fiction. So wondering on your take, do you think this concept of this metaverse where we live, work, and play be widely accepted and adopted by the market in the near future or even right now? Based on
based on?
Yeah, like for example, desk adoption is one thing, and then with the technology limitations as well, because we know they really need a lot of resources to get this whole metaverse up. So the question right now is really, do you think that metaverse is already present? Is it in the making, or is it still pretty far-fetched in the future?
Right. So in some ways, I mean, even as we were discussing all these games that people play, these places that people hang out, it is here, and I guess certainly with Facebook changing its name to Meta last year, it made the headlines. So the idea and the concept of the metaverse has gained popular acceptance, I think. But I mean, it's a yes and no question, because on the other hand, we generally feel that the real metaverse, where it's a fully immersive experience, will take at least another 15, 20 years at the very least, right? Mm-hmm. So the reason why I say that is I wanted to show you guys this, okay? Back when Oculus was still independent, I actually bought one of these Samsung Gear Innovators Edition. Let me switch off this, stop sharing on screen. So you can see this, hopefully you can see this a bit better. Yep. And it's basically a very ancient, circa 2014, original beta testing unit of the Samsung Gear, which is AR VR goggle. So when I tried it on, we had a great time. It was a very immersive experience. When you go into the virtual haunted house, you really do get quite scared. It's quite a spooky experience. So they did a really good job of it. But the one issue I did find with it was, walking was a problem because when you walk around, you're scared of falling. So that is solved by the video I showed you earlier, where now they've got a virtual treadmill, so you don't feel like you're not scared of falling. The other thing was, of course, when you hit something, you don't have sensory impacts coming back from it. I think there's a lot of research being done, or they're developing gloves that you can put on so that you start feeling sensory impacts. And then on the AR VR headset point, my concern with the VR headset was my eyesight. After using it extensively for about a week or so, I started feeling my eyesight deteriorate.
Oh no!
So I'm sure a lot of parents will be like, "No, you're not going to use it now." And then my husband, who's very prone to seasickness, after using it, he felt like vomiting. So that was the 2014 edition. Recently, we got a Oculus. What's the latest one? Oculus Quest, which is the latest version, like the updated 2021 version of Oculus Rift.
Okay.
Unfortunately, whilst it is the lagginess is slightly better, I think very minutely, my husband still felt a little bit seasick, and I was still worried for my eyesight. So I think the technology has improved a bit, but it's incremental improvements right now. So things like the treadmill that I was showing on the video earlier, these are little incremental improvements, and I think it will take quite a while before we get to a fully immersive experience where we don't feel like we're wearing something that's hindering our eyesight. And then on the other hand, I think so that was on that, and then apart from just the technology hardware part of things, I think there are a lot of other things that need to be ironed out. So things like monetary standards, for like we were talking a lot about crypto just now, right? But it doesn't have to just be crypto as a mode of exchange in the metaverse, right? There's nothing stopping you from accepting USD or RMB or SGD. It's just that at the moment people are using crypto, which I think unnecessarily annihilates or just drives away people who are not crypto fans, for example. Right, people who don't have a crypto cold chain wallet or don't have a crypto account, they just go, well, I don't want to I can't be part of the metaverse because I'm not, in it. And then things like backend computing standards, does it have to be a decentralized version, or does it have to be centralized, or could it be hybrid where, for that specific platform, it's centralized, but you are connectable to other platforms, and is there some sort of hybrid solution to that? Things like the infrastructure. Right now we're on 5G, and I don't know about your 5G, but sometimes my 5G is still a little bit laggy when just video calls are concerned, right? So can you imagine if you're going to not just a video call, but like, haptic feedback, live 3D sensing, and through real time,
so much going on.
Conversations. It's really going to require, I think, 6G or 7G. So yes, the concept has stuck, and I believe that this time it's, as opposed to Second Life back in 2012 when it was first launched, people were like, okay, afterwards, okay, well, this is fun, but I don't want to spend the rest of my life just staring at a computer screen. I think this time around people are embracing the metaverse concept, but there's a lot of capex to be spent and research to be done to build out all these standards and hardware.
Exactly, I agree.
Another 10 years, 15 years?
Yeah, that's a very specific answer or number, because of course I think Mark Zuckerberg is looking at about 3 to 5 years. So there has been talks about that, but only time will tell, right?
Yeah, sure.
I think we do have a few questions that are coming in. Perhaps I do see a few linkage. For instance, I think let's talk about money, because that's what most of us are more concerned about, right?
Okay.
So for instance, Bloomberg Intelligence said that there's a revenue opportunity of this metaverse for about $800 billion by 2024. And Cathy Woods of ARK Invest said that it's worth trillions. So of course, all these are also estimates before Facebook actually rebranded to Meta. So we can only see perhaps the potential upside is even bigger now.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think from an investor point of view, how can we invest in it? Is it risky? Is it right now? Is it an investment or is it a bet? Okay, are there like safer alternatives to it? And what are the ones that will better fit from this rise of Metaverse?
Yeah, I think I won't comment on the number of exactly how big it is. Suffice to say that I think it can be quite a lot. But then at the end of the day, you're right, money, right? We all want to know how to make investments wisely and where is the money to be had. Is it necessarily by investing in one of these names out here, or is there a better way? So I think I want to refer you back to our standard. Hold on a second. Oh gosh, sorry. Sorry, my bad. Right, this one here. Okay, can you see this, the GDIF disruptors quadrant? This is actually, this is the core and central of how we think about investments in GDIF, the Lion Global Disruptive Innovation Fund. We like to think it along two axes, and I'll explain this first before I explain to you how specifically for Metaverse we think about where we can make money, right? So we like to think about whether whenever we see a new technology or a new theme, it's a very useful guide. Does it require new technology to be invented, or does it require? Can it use existing technology? And then that's on the x-axis here, right? And on the y-axis, we question: does it use existing ecosystem that's already out there, or does it require new ecosystem? And I think where GDIF does vary a lot from, say, a mainstream technology fund or a NASDAQ fund is, most of the mainstream technology funds tend to play in this red quadrant here, which is it utilizes existing technology, it utilizes existing ecosystem. There's nothing new that needs to be built per se. It's just a matter of getting people to adopt it, getting people to buy it, maybe go into emerging markets, etc. So things like e-commerce. I mean, in the past, e-commerce would have been further out, right? It would be in one of the other quadrants, but in the current moment, it's slowly made its way and moved into the pink quadrant. So e-commerce, for example, is just about penetration rates, how quickly will people adopt it. But the technology is already there, the infrastructure, the logistics are already built out. Things like fintech, digital payments, same thing. Technology already exists, ecosystem is already there. It's just about getting people to adopt it, right? Where we find a lot of opportunities to invest are usually in the yellow quadrant and the blue quadrant. And interestingly, the Metaverse falls into what we call the aspirers, the green quadrant over here. So the aspirers, what they are they do require new technology. So they're like the wild west. They're at the forefront of technology, and they require new ecosystems. I think we touched on that a little bit earlier, right? New technologies in the form of better AR, VR headsets. Do you go VR or do you go AR? There's a difference there as well. And then like new ecosystem in the sense that you need much higher streaming speeds. You need supportive technologies from the infrastructure players, the cloud processing, the cloud computing that's needed to build that out. And usually when we look at the aspire space, we like to think of it as a bit of a, I mentioned earlier, a gold rush. So why do you think Facebook and Google is spending a lot right now trying to build up the metaverse concept? I think the reason, if you remember early in your early years, the original internet, when you dial up modem, everyone was back then trying to fight to be the landing page, i.e. the first thing that you see the minute you are connected onto the internet. And remember, back then it was not Google. Nowadays my kids are, Google this, Google that. Back then it was actually Yahoo. Yahoo Finance, I think, was quite popular at one point. At one point, Alta Vista was one of the most popular search engines, right? I don't know if you remember that. There was Lycos, there was Ask Jeeves. There was a big fight amongst all these, are you a crawler? Are you a meta crawler? How do you index things? Are you a Gumtree? And then now, what do we see? In the end, at the end of this arms race, this gold rush, there's only actually, well, at least for now, only one winner, and it's Google. Same thing, you talk about Facebook, and today we all hear about Facebook and Instagram. But before that, do you remember that there used to be something called Friendster? There was Friends Reunited. and there was MySpace, and I used to have a page on GeoCities as well. So that there were all these other places that were trying to, fight to be the landing page. And I mean, if we go down, if I can get past this page, everyone right now is trying to win the war in this bit, the gateway part. But actually, we think that there's a lot of opportunities, and actually safer opportunities for investing in this part, and more importantly, this part. So this is the user interface bit, right? So, some of these names are already actually profitable, but just that they are, building up that user interface for the metaverse, and like, PayPal, all these like, well, it's a bit of a fight right now between them as well, whether you go crypto or non-crypto. But then what we find, no matter who wins in section 1 and section 2, these guys are going to win. Because they're the ones who are selling the spade and shovel. So they're the ones who are providing your cloud computing. They're the ones who are providing your cloud storage. They're the ones who are providing the connection. EdTech, for example, they're the ones who are selling metaverse ad spaces to the consumer discretionary brands. Right? So guess what? Whether this metaverse platform wins or that metaverse platform wins, Unilever is still going to, advertise on both of them, and therefore they get double the ad revenues that come from that. And these guys who are like doing the visualization, right? Whether it's Facebook that wins or Google that wins, because apparently Google pushed Facebook's team, but whichever wins, at the end of the day, they still need the software that comes to do the digital twin, to do the game engine. So Unreal and Unity are two very interesting names, for example. So that's why we like to invest in these guys. And I think, if there's, I don't want to talk about dollars and cents, but let's just say data usage, right? I mean, I think it's no underestimation, because CS estimates that data usage will grow by 20x in the next decade. I don't know how many dollars and cents that is in real money, because there's a lot of inflation going on. But in 20 years, in 10 years time, we have 20 times the amount of data usage and 20 times the amount of data that needs to go up and down these pipes. So guess what? The guys who build that infrastructure will win whichever way, whoever becomes the main platform. So that, I think, is your investment, and the guys in front of you trying to pick the next Facebook, well, that's possible, but the risk reward, of course, is commensurate.
Yeah, there are actually a few questions coming in as well, relating about what you have just mentioned earlier, about investing on companies that are building the metaverse, comparison with investing inside within metaverse. Okay, and they're asking which should come first, which should take precedence. I think we have got a clear answer from you that like the spade and shovel. I think for right now, in like what you have mentioned, is the more important tools to invest in. Yeah,
you can almost think a hierarchy, right? The guys who are building the infrastructure for the metaverse, the guys who are building the metaverse, or so-called the front end of the metaverse, and then finally, it's not even in my space, but the asset class of investing in things that are in the metaverse. And by that, like, a lot of people like to buy NFTs. So to me, that's the most speculative activity.
Yeah, but again, I think the decision ultimately comes from the investor himself or herself. Of course, they are aware that that is much riskier, but the potential returns could be 100x per se. What?
True. I just caution that, don't forget, with NFTs and blockchains and cryptos, that decentralized nature also means that there's no regulatory oversight, which you have to be very, very wary about.
Exactly.
Whereas we're all regulated entities, so we're quite careful and we're aware of the pitfalls in something like that.
Thanks for sharing. Of course, I think right now we do come to a consensus where we know that to a degree of certainty we are shifting to Web 3.0. Might not be Metaverse yet, but definitely Web 3.0 in the making. I think we have covered about how far it is towards the future. For you, it's about 15 years. For Facebook, it's about 5 years. And if this 15 years down the road, if this theory actualizes, what would you say would mean to the human race? Is it healthy? Is it? Oh, because to me it feels a little scary when like all of the world's or maybe half of the world's energies and resources are gonna get poured into this non-physical world, fully digitalized, trapping behind this potentially maybe a more comfortable headset, and sort of it also led me thinking to like this Netflix film. I'm not sure if you guys are aware. It's called Black Mirror, where it's a
Yeah.
lot technology focused and a lot into the future. Where of course data is breached all the time, and you can tap into people's mind and senses. So it feels very eerie to me. What do you think?
I think I don't want to scare you, but there's another concept that I've been thinking about recently. Actually, so actually, yeah, I do like Black Mirror. It's one of my favorite TV series, and I watch a lot of these futuristic type TV series. I don't know if you're familiar with a guy called Ray Kurzweil. He was one of the early pioneers at Google, and he popularized or he talks a lot about this concept called singularity. So when I first was thinking about like, yeah, it's not even metaverse. I think when I was first thinking about how increasingly our world is becoming very digitized, right? As we mentioned earlier, I was saying we leave digital footprints everywhere. Investors like us, for example, we web scrape digital footprints of people in order to spot trends and predict the markets. So when we first started looking at digital data left behind, I got thinking about how we can actually employ AI to analyze this data, and that will, I think, this is like, just to add on to that, it's like in 20, 30 years time, it could eventually lead to a singularity moment. So what Ray Kurzweil calls a singularity is that moment when your computer or the digital AI, artificial intelligence, is sentient. So it's aware of itself, it's aware of other humans, it's aware of other beings, and it's intelligent. So to give you an example, I don't know, I think there was is it a Black Mirror episode maybe, where someone downloads their brain digitally, uploads it into the cloud, and it stays there. And so the idea of that, and it starts off quite innocent, I guess. So let's say in, I don't know, 50 years time, hopefully 60, when I pass on, I could upload my brain to the cloud, and then that brain will continue living in the metaverse. It will be able to continue talking to my kids. It will be able to continue, maybe it could even meet my grandkids or my great grandkids, and it will be continue interacting with them. So that's the moment of singularity, and effectively that brain that exists and resides in the cloud is like your digital twin. It's like you, but in the metaverse. And because it's powered by AI, it will slowly evolve in the same way that you would evolve if and when you get met with certain stimulus. So the AI is basically replicating the real human brains. So then Ray Kurzweil says that because at that moment when we're able to upload our brains into the cloud, it catalyzes singularity. It means that we can also live forever. So I guess I'll leave that with you, whether you would like to live forever in the metaverse, or would you rather, just die a happy death in, X number of years. I think
Yes.
that's the question that everyone probably has to answer for themselves. I don't think it's eerie per se. Certainly, Ray Kurzweil is like, he's all for it, right? He's welcoming it. I personally, at this point in time, do not find it eerie so long as there's no twist in what I've uploaded. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think also another question regarding like we say about data breach and about tapping into people's mind. Do you think at which point in time probably will there be like an example they're asking if regulations will come in and affect the market? For example, like the companies that for example GDIF invest in, like maybe on certain occasions the companies no longer function. So do you think there is a point where regulations would come and step in? Of course, I know we don't have the crystal ball. I think it's regarding that area in terms of
I think,
regulations.
yeah, I think the kind of companies that we invest in, they're more, I'd say, they're all regulated entities because they're listed companies and therefore regulated. So in that sense, we've always faced that threat, right? As you saw, 2020, Facebook was hauled before the Senate, and some of the Chinese companies that we invest in, like Tencent, for example, has always faced with the threat of regulatory clampdown. Sometimes they're in so many different countries that sometimes they get hold before different governments. So I think for the public companies that we invest in, it's a threat, but it's also a well-navigated threat. It's something that we're comfortable with dealing with, and the markets are sensible about it generally. I think where I might want to see more regulation happen is in that decentralized, unregulated, wild west, where millions can be made, but millions can also be lost. So whilst, yeah, sure, I know some people who have made millions. I also know people who invested, hundreds of thousands and never got that money back because it got hacked or something else happened. So I think that's, in terms of the regulation side of things. And, if I can just pitch GDIF very quickly, whilst I've got this page up, I forgot to mention this earlier. So for us, I just wanted to point out that actually I think earlier on I did mention that we've been investing in the Metaverse in that sense since even before last year, right? Because we've been investing in so many different themes. And you look at the underlying companies that represent the different layers of the Metaverse. We've been investing in Roblox, we've been investing in Seed, Tencent, gaming stocks, right? We've been investing in Nvidia, which powers a lot of the technologies that we invest in. We've been investing in Unity, that powers the gaming engine, and of course Facebook, Microsoft for major reasons. So 90% of the names that people think of as Metaverse, or it's in Meta, the ETF, which is a Metaverse only ETF, actually has a lot of cross fertilization with a lot of the other technologies, because in that sense I say it's an umbrella term because it's a build up, right? It's an amalgamation of so many different technologies that we've been investing in throughout. So so to your point, I think we're certainly not averse to regulation because these are companies that have actually been dealing with it for the longest of times already.
Yeah, thanks for your input. I would say as long as ultimately the world has progressed, right? Changes has to take effect. As long as it is at a stable pace, or I would say a pace where it's not too crazy, I think everything will work out just fine as well. Yeah. So I think with that, I felt that I've learned a lot today, and I felt that definitely you brought value to our audiences over here. And
I hope so.
we are coming towards the end of it, and of course, if you are keen on Lime Global's Global Disruptive Innovation Fund, it is available in our platform. You can run through them again, and then you can search the instruments within our platform. Also, if you do have any questions regarding this webinar or any sales inquiries or feedback, you would like to open an account, feel free to visit our website or drop us an email at ps@saxomarkets.com. Ai Ling, any last words from you?
I guess I'd just like everyone to remember that it's probably the safer bet is to invest in a fund like the Lion Global Disruptive Innovation Fund, because we start predicting these trends even before they come up. But you refer back to that quadrant that I was talking about. You will find that new ideas come in first in the aspirers, the top right-hand side. And then slowly as it makes its way into the mainstream is when it starts going to the bottom left. So hopefully we will continue to predict trends and things that people get excited about, and futuristic ideas. Don't worry, there'll be no killer robots, and if you don't want to upload your brain to the cloud, that's fine as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll all look forward to that. And then, yep, that's all for today. Have a thank you, Ai Ling, so much for your contributions.
Thank you,
yes, have a very, very great evening ahead.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.